Welcome to the Laguna Podcast, an attempt at illustrating the lives and stories from the Texas outdoors. Today I sit down with someone who was able to grow up learning the lessons of the Laguna alongside Bud Rowland as well as on his own. This is my conversation with Julian Gomez. Okay, so you have all the stuff you need there. We're ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready.
Cool. All right. Well, I got Julian Gomez in the chair, and this one's really cool because there's like a little bit of a connection from when I first started way back then, and we'll probably brush over that like later on. But just to kind of get it running and gunning, would you like to give an introduction, then we start rocking and rolling?
Absolutely. My name is Julian Gomez.
I am a little bit closer this way.
Sure.
Yeah.
My name is Julian Gomez.
Yes.
I'm a son, a father, a husband, and a lawyer here in McAllen, Texas.
And a fly fisherman, you can't forget that.
I am a fly fisherman and a regular fisherman, right?
Yes, correct. All right. Well, so run me through like your first memory in the outdoors, and you have a lot of outdoors experience. So make sure to tell me the ones that matter the most. But from your first one, kind of like your chronological progression as an outdoorsman.
Okay. So I've heard several of the podcasts before, and I know you kind of start that way. And sometimes there's the question. So I'm super technical, right? Mm-hmm. I'm a lawyer, so I'm like always asking. I was like, well, is it going to want to know about my first fishing or my first outdoors? Both. And probably my family's story starts in Hebbronville, Texas. Uh-huh. We are 10th generation Texans with my daughter. Wow. And we've been in that part of the world for 10 generations. Mm-hmm. 1740 is where we can kind of trace back the oldest parts to Hebbronville. Mm-hmm. And I remember probably my strongest first memory is being at the ranch. We had a place called Promeser. Mm-hmm. That was my grandfather's ranch, and he leased it. And it was really two ranches. It was a farm. He grew black-eyed peas, corn, sorghum, watermelon. Then there was some brush, and then there was a back part, and that back part was called Nicle. Okay. And my dad is a hunting stud, like he is. Mm-hmm. My dad is a stud. He's tough, he's smart, and he is incredible for hunting deer. And as a kid, deer hunting wasn't what it is now. Mm-hmm. Like now, everybody's got a high fence. Yes. But if you killed any deer with horns, like it was a trophy. Mm-hmm. And my dad had this very unique skill that he could rattle with deer horns and bring deer out. My grandfather was not a good hunter. My grandfather, also Julian, my dad is also Julian. My grandfather did not teach my dad how to hunt. It was another man that taught my dad how to hunt. Uh-huh. And he would take his horns and like mush them together like you would your fingers, like you're in prayer, but the exact opposite. Yeah, okay. And he would sit on his horns. The guy that taught my dad, and he shot with a 22 short, which is it's like a little bit stronger than their pellet gun. Anyway, that man taught my dad how to rattle. My dad became an exceptional deer rattler. Wow. I've rattled with my dad, and I've had deer literally jump over us. He's incredible. He's like incredible. Anyway, we're there at Promeser, and my grandfather drops my dad off, and I don't know. I was born in 1973. We moved to South Texas. My dad was in Dallas in residency. We moved to South Texas because he wants to be close to his dad. Uh-huh. That's 1980. So this has got to be like 81. Mm-hmm. And my dad is wearing a camouflage and a Dickies kind of one-piece outfit. And camouflage was not like as technical as it is right now. It's like
splotches of paint.
Yeah. I mean, anyway, he was wearing his Dickies. He jumps out. He's wearing cowboy boots. He has this leather belt around his thing, and he would stick his horns in his leather belt like
revolvers.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
That's awesome.
And my dad likes to rattle from trees. So we leave him and we come back. And my dad has shot once, missed, rattled the deer back up, shoots him, and we are at Nicle, which is connected to Promeser, and we are skinning that deer. And it is my grandfather, my dad, and that is my most vivid memory of the outdoors as a kid. And I think that's probably the first.
This episode is made possible by our friends over at Gordy & Sons Outfitters, located in Houston, Texas, and employing a team of experienced outdoorsmen specializing in fly fishing, hunting, and wing shooting. Gordy & Sons is sure to prepare you for success in the outdoors. Next time you find yourself preparing for a weekend getaway or a bucket list trip, be sure to give them a visit at www.gordyandsons.com. Did you feel that a feeling of being hooked already, or was it something that you were like, oh, this is cool, this is my family's pastime, and it slowly grew into something after that?
That's a great question that I've never kind of thought about. And I would say that, well, my grandfather's name, like I said, is Julian. And my dad's name is Julian. I'm Julian. And it was just kind of who we were.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it never, maybe it was like our sense of identity, I guess. Going to the ranch was a big deal.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal when my dad talks about his father with his grandfather, which would be my great-grandfather. And so I guess that's the ranch and the outdoors was part of my identity. But it was normal. It wasn't even thought about. It was, I guess.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it.
Okay, well, that was your first outdoors. Now, how long till you get your first, real fishing memory?
Well, so when we moved down here, again, by 1980, we're 7. So my dad, we had talked about something else. We want to talk about opportunity, right?
Yes,
okay,
yes,
or
yes.
means. Anyway, my dad didn't have like buddies to go fishing with.
Okay.
So I was the buddy. Right? And we would fish at night. And we would drive from McAllen all the way to South Padre Island. I remember my fishing rod. It was a green fiberglass rod with a Zebco on the top that had the little pistol grip, and that was mine. We had a yellow wagon.
Yeah.
And we would go to the old causeway. We would also go to the jetties, but we wouldn't take the wagon to the jetties. But I remember, I remember catching a piggy perch at the jetties. That's before we moved down here. But where we were going consistently, I'm already, I don't know, 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And my dad would take me and I would sleep on the old road of the old causeway.
And like a concrete, yeah.
Yeah. We had spec rigs. And we would, do you know what a spec rig is?
I assume it's we're talking about the little tiny rigs at night that you put it's like little Daichi rigs or something like that.
Yeah, they're kind of like that. They've got, I don't know, maybe a 16th ounce little jig head that kind of looks like a
Sabiki
Q-tip.
rigs is what I'm
Sabiki,
thinking.
yeah.
My bad. Okay.
But they've got little Q-tip looking, like the cotton part, weight, and then monofilament kind of tail, like bucktail, but it's monofilament, and it's just wrapped on the hook. And you had 2 of them. They were tied together with monofilament, and then you tied on to a loop in the monofilament, and you would throw those out underneath the light, and you just jig them in.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. How long from then till you started getting into the other side of fly fishing, other side of fishing, which is fly fishing? I'm willing to bet that takes a while.
No, for me it was not.
Okay.
So I visited with my dad.
Yes.
It's like, well, when was it and what happened? And yep, okay, that's what I remember. So we're night fishing. It is 1983, and we have had the most incredible evening of night fishing. And we're catching them 2 at a time. And my dad's like, remember this moment.
Yeah.
It's never going to happen again. It gets
Worse
no better.
After this. You should just quit right now.
It just gets no better. And there's a real skill to fishing at the piers, right? Because the currents do certain things and they create bars and the water flows. And so my dad was really kind of good at it. And we're catching them 2 at a time. And we're coming back. And as we come back, between the new causeway and the old causeway is actually a pretty decent fishing spot that everybody sees that it's tidally influenced. And there's a dude that's out there catching redfish, and you can see him throwing this rod that doesn't look like what we're doing. And we had spent all night catching, I don't know, 10, 15-inch kind of trout. I mean, they're not big fish. And this guy pulls up a redfish the size of my leg kind of deal with that fly rod. And I was like, Dad, you got to take me over there. He takes me over there. I see what this man has done. And back then we had some other stores, and I got a fly rod.
Yeah. Well, then let's talk about the progression then. What was it like, starting out, young and at one of the hardest things to get good at, which is fly fishing?
Well, so I've got a daughter that's about your age, right?
Uh-huh.
And sometimes I'm not sure what people realize, right? So like we had telephones. Like I remember going to the telephone at my grandparents' house, right? And it had like you stuck your finger in this rotary thing and you went brrr, that was one down. It would go brrr, back. Then you would go brrr, and that was another one, right? Then kind of the next evolution of the phone was that it was on the wall and you pushed some buttons, right? I mean, there was an evolution to it. Fishing then is not like what fishing is now.
Okay.
And so there was no computers in the way how we have computers. There certainly wasn't social media in the way how we have social media. So the only thing you kind of knew was what either came out on the television, whatever came out in the magazine, or some story that somebody told you.
Okay.
And I'm digressing here just a little bit, because how was my progression? Well, back then we had a store in McAllen called Broadway Hardware. Badass store. There's no store that kind of exists like that in South Texas anymore, right?
Really?
Like, no, like you wanted
Was it close to like a Johnny's True Value maybe? Or was it like, what was the difference between, that sounds similar-ish.
It is. And that was like, if I leave one message maybe with folks is you better shop local.
Okay.
Right? Because if you don't shop local, you're not going to be able to have the stuff that you want when you want it.
Yeah.
It is super convenient to order stuff from Amazon. But if, you want, I don't know, Gamugatsu hooks in a particular kind, SL12s or SL11, whatever it is. If you want a particular stuff and you're not shopping local, then you're not going to be able to get it. And so back then, Broadway Hardware had fly reels.
Okay.
Right? And another store named Warmendorf's had the fly rod. And so I bought the fly reel at Broadway Hardware and the rod at Warmendorf's.
Okay.
Warmendorf's, if I'm not mistaken, Danny's pawn shop in McAllen.
Oh, really?
He was like the manager at Warmendorf's and then kind of opened up Danny's, but I'm not positive of that. Anyway, you would go to these stores and there was somebody who actually did it.
Yeah.
So what was it like? Oh, you did this. And I was like, okay. And so I started then because of my dad. We talked about, he's my enabler.
The enabler, yes.
He's my enabler. He has allowed me to develop these skills. And so we would start fishing. And I would fish here in McAllen. I know I still feel like, so just right over there's another canal.
Yes.
I've caught many fish in that canal. I've fished all the lakes, and that's something I think every person here, like Water Walk is over there, man. There used to be some great bass in that.
Used to be some really good carp fishing in there too.
Yeah, there was some really, really good stuff. And it's a shame that kids can't do that anymore. It really is.
Yeah.
It is a shame because they're not really hurting anything.
I agree.
And if they're fishing, well, they're not on their phone. They're not doing this other kind of stuff. Anyway, that's really getting off topic. But so I became a canal
expert.
Right. That was kind of my stuff. And then you would get to go saltwater fishing as a treat. We also had, at the ranch, we had some tanks that had fish in them. So I would start doing that. And because I had my own fly rod, I could do that. Also influential around that same period, we went to Alaska. And in one trip, right, like, oh, shit, I've caught like 2 years worth of fish. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just a massive number of fish caught where you're like, oh, this happens. Oh, I need to do this. Oh, don't do that. Do this other stuff. And I still screw up constantly, right?
If you're enjoying this episode or any others and want to support the project, I would highly encourage you to check out my new book, Laguna. 288 pages with over 300 images and illustrations, containing excerpts by Eric Glass, Chuck Nizer, Tim O'Brien, Bill Gamble, Ben Paschal, Ryan Sparrow, Michaela Elliott, Rick Hartman, Jaco Lucas, John Pilmer, Corey Bauman, Brian Robinson, and myself. Available at select stores, or you can order it directly at buylagunabook.myshopify.com. But no, I get it. Like, it's you're learning the mistake. You're making the mistakes early. It's like, I heard an analogy like this, and I don't mean to get you off topic, but it was like, I heard an analogy where very good tarpon anglers tend to start off in other areas like that are a little bit easier, like Mexico and stuff, to get the strips down, get the strip set, the fight and everything, and then transpose it to like a harder, arena, if you will. So I think that's a perfect way to explain it. It's just like, getting the errors, straightening the kinks out early.
Very early. And then I feel that I could be maybe an expert at a lot of things now because I just need to go to YouTube.
Yeah,
right.
Fair.
Right. So like I'm a water softener, right? It's not working with something. So I start YouTubing it and I'm bringing it right now and I'm going to be able to fix it. Right. You didn't have that. Right. So the only dude that I knew of down here at that time who was a fly fisherman was Bud. So I went to Bud school. That was a big deal. Bud was like, and I love Bud. I really do. But Bud is not like an Orvis
endorsed caster.
Yeah. He's like the Lee Trevino of fly fishing, right? Bud's badass. Bud is a stud as well, right? Like Bud's a stud. But so like, like you learn how to, Bud catches fish and he's fishy, right? And he would show you how to kind of make it good enough. And that's really all you need for fly fishing, unless you're like fishing for permanent. You just need good enough. You just got to get there fast enough and articulate the fly.
Yeah. Well, describe actually what it was like going into the shop the first time. Or do you have a vivid memory of that?
So what I mostly remember about Bud, and I did go into the shop a ton. That was something I wanted to talk about, like the different shops that I could remember, right? Okay. There was a progression to the stores as well. But the way how we met, right? I'm standing on my mailbox. I have a tarpon that's cut out of a 2x12 that's standing out there, and I would practice casting at that tarpon. Well, I didn't come up with that, right? Bud had these built up little wooden decks, and he had these fish, and you would cast to the fish behind you. You had to do a back cast. You needed to cast into the wind. He had all of these different setups, and that's what I really remember from my time with
the
Bud.
360 casting rink, dude. That was, and at the time when I first heard that, it was one of those things like, oh, well, like you're on a skiff. It doesn't make that much sense to train behind you and everything else. But then it's like, wait, like Bud was a walker. And that makes so much sense, And I was like, oh.
Well, there's my taste in art has changed. I'm married now, and so I have like married man art. But I used to have single man art. I actually think it's outside where that air conditioner is. In fact, I know it's in there. But there was this famous kind of painting where these guys are like bait casting. That's a Bud thing. They're bait casting with gold spoons, and they're pointing in this direction, but the fish are tailing like right behind them. Okay. And because you're not really looking behind you, like that was a skill is, you're always kind of, just like if you were hunting, right? You're always kind of looking around. And, we were just, like you said, Bud was a walk. We just weren't as mobile.
Yes. How old were you? I didn't ask that. How old were you whenever this is before, like
10.
You're 10, you go into the shop, you don't fish with Bud yet. When did you actually get a chance to like spend time on the water with Bud?
10.
Really?
Yeah. Because my dad and Bud got along.
Exactly. I mean, that's so cool, man.
Yeah. No. That's my fault. The floors are concrete here in my house. Again, right? I read a book and was able to figure out how to do it. No, I've been hanging out with Bud for a long time. And but again, Bud's like, he's good at bird shooting. He's good at deer hunting. He's good at fishing. I mean, there's not much that Bud isn't good at.
What's one of the stories you have with Bud, at least walking? I know you mentioned to me how he was so fishy to the point where he would like mess around and be like, I bet there's a fish in this pothole and stuff like that. But do you have any, you'll get into that also, but do you have any ones that are you're like, you know, the big trout story or something like that, you know?
I do. I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying this. And if I am, Bud, you know,
I'll believe it out, no worries.
Well, I mean, because the spot just doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
The spot doesn't exist anymore. So if you went essentially due west of Jim's Pier, which is not the real Jim's Pier, that's the new Jim's Pier, but you went due west of Jim's Pier, there used to be some spoil banks. And that was like Bud loved to fish there. And we were walking it, and you know there was just beautiful grass back then. It's crystal clear water. It's a little bit deeper than some of the places you might normally fish. And we're bait casting, and that was one of the things that Bud liked about me, right? I learned how to bait cast fish, not spin fish. I do know how to spin fish, and I did spin fish, but once I figured out that spin fishing, if you're using like a plastic,
like a fluke or whatever, I got you, yeah.
It'll spin the lure.
Really? I did not know that.
So Bud liked using bait casters, and I liked using bait casters for the same reason, because a level wind will keep the lure straight and not spin it like you would or put twists in it. It's just a different thing. Anyway, Bud and I both had, I think they were like called Abu Garcia 5500s.
Yep.
And we both had 5500s. I'm an Aggie. Mine was maroon. They'd given it as a gift to my dad. My dad didn't like spinning or bait casters, so I had it and I was using it. But we're walking, and there's a pothole, and Bud's like, "Oh, I bet you there's trout in there." And I was like, he's like, "Put it in there." So you know, I put it in there. He's like, no. Just put it like 6 inches more to the right or something. No. You're not quite on the spot, son. You put it just a little bit more to the right. You know, maybe I overshot it or something. He's like, watch me. He was just, he was great like that.
Yeah.
He was really great like that.
And then so at any point I know there was a point, but how long till you started, you know, going out on your own and, you know, implementing all the fishing to all the stuff you had learned and been like, can I do this on my own?
So that was, you know, I wanted to talk like about enablers, and I'm very grateful for my dad, right? Okay. Like, again, none of this happens without him.
And the same thing for this. None of this happens without my parents.
That's right. Yeah. And it doesn't. There's just no way to do it without, unless somebody is essentially sponsoring you.
Exactly.
And so one of the things that I was very fortunate was that when I turned 16, and I started driving when I was 14, but I would drive to Hebronville to work, but I also got to drive to the beach to fish. And so as soon as I had a truck, we had a Bayhawk boat, and once I could drive and tow the boat, I mean, it was like game over. I mean, I fished a lot. Yeah. I used to fish a whole bunch. I don't fish as much anymore, but I was thinking about it today, right? I mean, that before law school, I fished 151 days that year. I kept a decent track of that. But then when I graduated law school, I lived at the island. And so I worked for for this federal judge over there. He's a great man, Ronaldo Garza. And Ronaldo would let me leave like around 4:30. And so I would drive, and I fished just about every afternoon back then. And I'm already at that stage. That's 2000 and 2001. Mm-hmm. I'm already 15 years or more into fly fishing by that point. So like that's, you know, it's already gotten fatty by that point.
Yes.
But when we, in the early 80s, late 80s, like when I was in high school in the 90s, or that was late 80s, early 90s, Lake James right up here. Yep. I used to fish at Lake James a whole bunch.
Hey, you and me both. Been there.
There wasn't that many people that were doing it.
Yeah.
And there wasn't, other than Bud, I mean, there wasn't.
Yeah, no, I get it. What were some of the things that you got to see Like we met, before we started, on the podcast, we mentioned herds really briefly and stuff, but I'm curious, like, was there any, visuals in the Lower Laguna that you kind of missed from those days?
A lack of boats, right? No, I mean, that is a dramatic change. And I can't put my finger directly on that moment. But I couldn't tell you the date. But I know that we had a shallow sport at that time because it's the first place I took that shallow sport because I couldn't get the Bayhawk in and out of there. And I got stuck. But I took that into Peyton's, and there was no other boat that entire day in Peyton's. That's like on a weekend.
That's crazy.
Right? So and I don't know the names of all the spots. I don't. And I got stuck, ran into a herd, and fished the herd, did great. But I had to wait till the water came back up, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about tide earlier, right? That's not like, you looked at, back then you didn't have your phone. You picked up a piece of paper at the boat ramp and it said high tide at 6 p.m., which meant 12:30 if you're lucky, way up north. I mean, the tide doesn't necessarily work the same way as over there. But the amount of boats is certainly different. You could, there was another great, I've been very fortunate again because of my dad. Like, he had these great friends, right?
Yeah.
He had this great friend of his name was Rene Karam. And Rene had one of those little bitty Dargle scooters. And it's my dad and Rene up in the front of the boat. And well, I'll get to that in a second. Not about. I'll finish that story. But so I'm in one of the very back lakes of South Bay, which is very close to where Star whatever is.
Yeah.
And I'm pushing in 6 inches of water, and I'm pushing the boat from behind, so I can't really see what's in front of me because I'm just pushing the boat while these guys are having a good time, drinking beer and whatever. And that back bay was just like full, and I mean full of blue crabs. Oh, yeah. And so that, I'm pretty sure that was me knocking on wood. The statute of limitations is run, but he's like, go to the right. And I'm pushing the boat to the right and they're scooping up blue crabs with the net. And we filled up the ice chest and had a really good time. But that type of wildlife and lack of people is kind of the biggest change that I think that I've seen down here. There's just, it's just changed.
Yeah. It's funny, like I'll spend a Monday out there or like a Tuesday out there and it'll be the middle of the winter. So the water's at an all-time low. And for a little bit, it does feel like the whole place is empty. And it's cool because you'll be driving over stuff that typically don't hold fish. You're driving over what's considered highway water and you're pushing fish by like the 10s and 20s. And you're like, wow, like if nobody bothered this,
you're right,
you could fish this. That's just
what I can't figure out is where they go when they do that. Right. So let's take the convention center water, right? Like people run all over that. Where do those fish go? Because that water is relatively deep.
Yeah.
They don't go shallower because all the windsurfers are kind of, or they don't even call it, they're kiteboarders now. Yeah. That's how old I am, right? It used to windsurf there. But even back then, heck, the windsurfers weren't really there. Where did those fish go?
Yeah.
Because they don't go south towards towards where all the people are. Do they go west towards intercoastal? Do they just hunker down into the grass and not really move?
That's a good question. I've always been someone who thinks that they just follow the biomass of mullet. There's always that big group of mullet. So for example, we had a time in October where we didn't have any northerns and the barometric pressure every day, kind of like the day we fished, was just chaos. The fish could never get a read. And I really thought that the barometric pressure just had those mullet down really, really deep. And those fish were with those mullet and you could only really catch consistently. And, this is my own anecdotal experience. Obviously there's people who probably caught limits, in the spots that I wasn't, but you could only really catch fish that were heavily tidally influenced. Everything in between Stover all the way through to Mansfield was just essentially tough. It was really, really tough. You had to fish stuff that had current flow. If not, it wasn't going to happen. And I really do think that those fish were with those mullet consistently. if that makes any sense.
It does. I want to say that fish are not particularly smart.
Yeah.
But we're not as smart as the fish either, right? And so they got to eat.
Yeah, fair.
And so I think tide and current and wind where it's pushing that water, well, why is that important? Well, because it moves the bait, like you're talking about, and where the bait goes, the fish go.
Yeah. One of the, I kind of want to mention a little bit of anecdotal stories. One of the ones you brought up earlier was being able to snorkel in the jetties. Do you have any other also anecdotal stories with you and your dad or stuff like that were, just showing like the wildness or just like how easy it was to just do different things in the Lower Laguna?
Let's see. Well, I can remember the first snook.
Yeah.
Right. So catching snook down here, like there was a guy, and you should talk to him. His name's Gilbert Vela. Gilbert is a great guy and a great fisherman as well. Like Gilbert was the only guy who really caught snook back then.
Was he the one that was helping with the program, the tagging program, or the hatchery program? I believe.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Right. So, and I'll digress here. So there was in South Padre Island, there was two places to fish out of. You could fish out of Jim's, or you could fish out of Fisherman's Wharf. Okay. And it was like being a Houston Oiler or a Dallas Cowboy. You're
one or the other. You pick one. You're not both.
Right. So I was a Jim's guy, right? And so at Jim's, Gilbert was the man.
Okay.
And there was and I was thinking about different things that were really cool back in that time, right? So like but Captain Roy, he had the restaurant there kind of as you came onto the beach, I'm pretty sure when you started. Well, before that, he was a stud angler as well.
Really?
Yes. He was he's got to be one of the first sight casting guys down here.
Really?
Yes. So the big shallow sports, they weren't big, they were 18 footers back then. Well, they have these windshields. Well, what is that? That's a sail. You can't push a boat with a sail. So he took his windshield off.
Oh, okay.
Right? It was oh my gosh, how revolutionary, right?
Breaking the mold.
Yeah, breaking the mold. But anyway, so with the first snook, that was kind of a really long way. But Gilbert kind of, and Bud, both kind of showed me South Bay. And not everything, but enough where I wouldn't hit the oysters, right? Be careful because there's some stuff over here. Be careful because there's some stuff over here. You can take your boat and you can stop here, and then you're going to have to get out and walk, right? That type of,
coaching. Yeah, I get it. Yes.
Right. And that's part of the fun of it.
Absolutely.
Right. Google Earth is great, but it maybe robs youth of exploring in that way. But we're back in the back of South Bay, and it's my dad. And I can remember it's that's a snook. We've never caught a snook. We've seen a snook, and I'll tell you about the jetties as well. But I'm cast. You got to cast, Dad. Cast. I can't stop the boat, Dad. You got to cast. And I don't know, at least 10 casts, right? We just passed right by that fish. It just never happened. But the jetties story as a kid, and I think we probably got, again, I'm not trying to give the local guys plugs, but, in part of it, maybe they do. We went to Glick Twins. Yeah. And we bought snorkel masks.
I'm actually going to have Bob on the podcast soon.
Good,
also.
You should.
Yes.
Right. And we bought snorkel masks and he's like, and I think I told you about it. We dressed differently, right? We looked like Magnum PI. If you guys don't know who that is, y'all should go look it up. We wore these, all of us, not my dad. My dad doesn't like the sun, but we wore these short shorts.
The 4-inch inseams.
They were high-waisted. They came up to your belly button. They had some big cargo pockets, but they barely covered the bottom of your butt. And I remember wearing the shorts, and we dove into, we didn't dive, but we got into the jetties, and we're just checking it out.
Yeah.
What's here? It's oh shit. And it's full of, there was plenty of sheephead. Those were easy to catch. It was full of sea urchins. I remember that. I just hadn't really grasped that. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the jetties is a massive, massive school of snook, and you could never catch them.
Yeah.
Right? Because they just, we didn't know how to do it yet. We hadn't figured it out. But Gilbert, he did know how to do it.
Really?
He did. Gilbert's great. Like, he knows what the heck he's doing with those snook.
Wow. It's crazy. I had one guy, Texas Blue Water Spearfishing, George Brown, on the podcast, and he mentioned a little bit about seeing those snook. And what he says is like, he goes, I don't understand a lot of the jetty fishermen. Like, they throw out towards the middle, but realistically, all the fish are right by the rocks. And it was like, oh, I mean, it makes sense. Like, it makes so much sense. It's like, but they don't eat. Like, they're so smart.
Yeah, they're smart.
Well, so okay. After you spent a lot of time on the Lower Laguna. How long did it take for you to finally get into like the tarpon game?
So I absolutely remember that. I'm now probably 20 years into fishing for tarpon, and so let's work backwards. So like 2006, somewhere around there, 2005, 2006, 2004, 2007, somewhere in that time frame. I was like, and I had caught tarpon, but not adult tarpon. And we should probably
differentiate.
Go
for it.
So I had, again, my enablers, my father, we had been to Belize, we had been to the Bahamas. I'd caught a sailfish by that point.
Yeah.
Right? With Bud, my dad, we go down to Panama in the 90s.
The Isla de Mujeres, right? Since where you like to go?
No, Isla de Mujeres is in Mexico.
Okay.
We're in Panama, and we go to Tropic Star when Tropic Star is just kind of starting out. And I'm still in college, right? So I graduate college. I got out of high school in 91. I get out of college in 95. So it's sometime between then.
Yeah.
And T-Bore's already around because I had a T-Bore reel and I had a Sage rod. But I'd already caught sailfish by the time 10 years before I got into tarpon.
Yeah.
But when I caught an adult tarpon, it was life-changing.
Run me through the experience.
Well, I mean...
Well, we haven't even differentiated. What constitutes an adult versus a non-adult tarpon?
I'm not a biologist. I don't claim to be a biologist.
No, this is your own opinion.
Yeah. So when I'm talking about an adult tarpon, that is a fish that breeds and migrates.
Okay.
We have plenty of juvenile tarpon in the Lower Laguna Madre.
Yes.
At least as long as I've been around, right? Those fish don't leave. They stay here kind of year round, right? I've caught juvenile tarpon in a cast net in place, and I'm not going to tell you where. I've told you where, but I'm not going to tell you where on this thing.
I understand.
Right? I've caught juvenile tarpon, smaller than my finger in a cast net, and you're like, oh wow, right? So like this is a nursery for them, but because we don't have significant amount of freshwater, I hypothesize they don't really stick around. And so when they move through this area south, and then they move back north, or maybe they move. I guess that would be east. They can't move west. They move east, depending on what they're doing.
Yeah, depending on like the salinity and water content, I assume, right?
I wish I knew.
No, but I think you're right, because there's been years where the rainfall has been substantially less, and the tarpon fishing is not what it usually has been. So I think you're 100% right, at least part of it.
Right. But so whenever it happens, so these I catch, and catch is maybe not the correct term. I hook, right? So there's get the fly out of the boat. That's like win, which that's actually sounds a lot hard. It seems like, oh, you got the fly out of the boat? Like,
congrats.
Big fucking deal. No, like you put 100-pound fish in you swimming in the water that you can see, and you get the fly.
Can you do it?
Can you get it out of the boat?
Get over the adrenaline? Yes.
Yeah. Can you get it out of the boat? That's one. Okay. Got it out of the boat. You got it into close to an area that maybe it would have a shot of eating it, right? Like you cast to its tail, that ain't going to work, right? Okay. So you got it close to it. Then the fish maybe looks at it. That's an improvement. Then the fish actually eats it. Opens its mouth, right? Because you can see that.
Yes.
These are not, it opens their mouth. You can see it. Then they actually eat it. That's another kind of level. Then they maybe jump right? That's another level. And then you get them to the leader. That's another probably level. And then you can grab them, right?
Okay.
I've never killed an adult tarpon or a little one. At least not that I know. I'm pretty sure like I set them free and they die maybe an hour later or something, but I've not killed one intentionally. What that was like, I don't know. I stopped fishing pretty much otherwise after it.
But yeah, okay. But like, let's the first adult tarpon. You went through the levels, but what was it like? Your story. What did that tarpon do? What did it remind you of? Did it look?
Gotcha.
Anthropomorphize that thing. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
So again, this is the early 2000s. I'm already out of law school. I know that. I'm in much better shape than I am now. I love Miller Lite. I've loved it. I'm a Miller Lite guy, right? I like Miller Lite. Again, not a plug, just the truth. And so as a kid, right, I always had beer on the boat, always, right? I couldn't buy beer, but I could buy beer. And so tarpon fishing, like you had beer on your boat. I remember that. So the fish, there's this one place where they swam, and they swims down right up this line, and it's just coming like right at you. And so you angle the boat in a certain way so that you're not throwing it in front of them, and then they push the water to you when they eat. Like you kind of need to feed them at an angle. But you fed him at an angle, that motherfucker grabbed it, and then he just like elevates. And I can still see it in my mind. I'm with my old roommate at the time, and that fish elevates and is perfectly parallel over the water.
Okay.
Right? And not like perfectly parallel like, I don't know, like 6 inches. I mean, like it's perfectly parallel over the water, like in my mind, 5 feet over the water. Like it's where
it's comparable to the horizon. I see exactly what you're getting.
Like
yes.
It's just like that.
Yes.
And, the fly line, I mean, I don't think I'm on the fly. So for those that haven't done it, like you have, I don't know, let's say 70 feet of line out that's stripped. You make your cast. Your cast is maybe 40 feet, 50 feet. It's nothing crazy. You have to clear all that line first. Then it gets on the reel. The fish has not gotten onto the reel. So I'm still like holding on to the rod, the line. My fingers are burnt. And this fish is horizontal, and like it was better than sex. It was, and it consumed me for a long time.
Yeah,
I mean, that is my first date with my current wife. And guess where I took her? Tarpon fishing. I really, it changed my life.
Yeah. I mean, and one of the cool things is actually you are in the Yeti Tarpon book, right?
I have 2 photographs that came out in the Yeti Tarpon book.
You want to talk about them?
I mean, sure. I mean, this.
I think they're pretty cool. I think that's like to me that's cool because it's such a monumental piece of work, and like I looked up to that book a lot. So to be able to sit here and be like, yeah, like you had like your own photographs in that book, and to you it might not seem like a big deal, but no, I think it's pretty cool.
Well, thank you. So let's, sometimes you can be good, sometimes you can be lucky. I just happen to be at the right place at the right time. And I didn't come up with this little saying, but somebody's like, you spray and pray, right? You have the camera that's on full auto. Well, not on full auto. You have your aperture at 2.8. You got your ISO wherever it needs to be. And, you just hold the button down and take as many pictures as you can. Afterwards, you're like, out of focus, out of focus, out of focus, out of focus, out of focus. Yeah, right. And we just prayed and prayed. But there was just a great day. Yep. Just a great day of fishing. Yeah, it was a very, very large tarpon. Very large tarpon.
Well, okay, so you spent a lot of time in Florida. We've gone over the adult tarpon.
I didn't tell you where I fished.
All right, we spent a lot of time not in Texas, and we talked about this adult fish. Do you have any other big tarpon stories you'd like to kind of go over? Since it seems like that's one of the things that just really gets you going.
Well, so I think fishing for Texas tarpon is interesting.
Okay, let's do that.
And it's different.
Yes.
So I don't think giving anyone
You're not
any
giving
real
anything
shortcuts. Adult tarpon don't really go into the Laguna Madre. So the water that you fight Texas tarpon in is deeper than water you fight them elsewhere.
Okay.
And so it took me a while to kind of figure this out. And so my tarpon partner has since moved to Florida.
Hey, I didn't say that.
No. He didn't move. Nikki Reynolds. I'll give him a shout out. And is it like we've hooked some pretty decent sized fish here. And those fish in shallow water, you get up right up on top of the fish. So again, this is like a perfect kind of like the difference between now and then.
Okay.
So when we first started, when you first started fishing, you had magazines, Outdoor Life, Field and Stream. You had some guy who had maybe done it a little bit before you talked with them. Then we had like videotapes.
Yeah.
Or the Saturday morning fishing shows, right? That's kind of another
like the
thing.
Billy Pate videos too,
That's
all
right.
that stuff. Yeah.
You're literally getting to what I was going to talk about. If you go inside that closet, I have got old CDs, right? So like the CDs had come out. And so the CDs are talking about like how you fight fish.
Yeah.
And so it was, it's Stu App. I think it's Stu App.
Yeah.
Right. He was like the down and dirty, right? And like you putting the rod in the water and he's, really yanking on the fish and twisting them and doing all this kind of, stuff that's really, really hard to do. It sounds like, oh, you just do this and, you can whoop the fish or whatever. It's like, it's tough.
Yeah.
Because it's just not that easy to like move them around. But you don't fight Texas tarpon that way because the water is too deep. You have to fight a Texas tarpon, not in the fat part of the fly line. You fight them in the skinny part of the fly line so you can pull across their back and I'm away from the microphone. So you can, pull them up to keep them high because if they go down, they just put their pectoral fins out. And if you fight directly above them, they're really hard.
It's like trying to fight against a sail, basically.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
Wow. They're really hard to leader.
Yeah.
That's all. They're such beautiful fish and they're so spectacular. They cooperate 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Down here, they play ball a little bit better.
They're nicer fish, right? They're big. They're like, hey, thanks. I appreciate it. You're like, have a scale. But because they do that, it's like, okay, get a couple jumps out of them. You can do some things with your rod and they'll just jump right off. And you're just like, all right, see you later. I appreciate it. Tell your friends that I don't hurt them.
Tell them to eat the bug.
Yeah, dude, tell them to eat the bug. So yeah, that would be probably, that was the biggest kind of like, oh, wow, that was like a light switch for me. That took out, called a friend. I was like, man, I'm really struggling. I'm like, what do I do? He's like, oh, you got to fight them in a different way. I was like, oh, thanks, man.
That's so interesting, though. I've never heard anybody mention the difference in fighting those fish. Like, I know, like, you got to pull some, like, on the shallow water, you get to pull up more, stuff like that. But, like, that is such a very interesting point. Like, to fight them with the short, like, the skinnier part of the fly line, just to give yourself that better lever angle.
Right.
Like, things
you can't pull as hard.
Yeah.
Right. You can't pull as hard, but if you're keeping them up, you can maneuver them a little bit better.
Yeah.
You just fight them different.
I don't disagree. All right, where do you want to go from here? We're at 47 minutes. I know you got that long list on your phone.
Let's see.
Yeah.
I was trying to think about, what are some of the stuff that kind of was revolutionary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that we did differently, right? So like binoculars.
Okay, let's see. Yeah.
Okay, so fishing in the Lower Laguna Madre, when I used to be able to do it, there was a lot of birds, right? And you had birds, and birds were more of a tell where there were fish.
Yeah, symbiotic relationship.
Right, and so you would glass, like if you were ram hunting for birds. Oh, there's some birds. Let's go over there, right? Just like you're talking about the mullet. That means that there was a biomass of stuff. That was kind of like really kind of important. Maybe I wanted to talk about practicing, right?
I like that you said that.
That's how we met.
Yes.
right? Again, I was out there practicing and you were like, well, let me cast. I was like, well, here you go. And I was like, shit.
Okay, hold on, wait. But you get a little bit more context. So like at the time I was like 16 or 17, right? My friend who was your neighbor was over here practicing his cast with you. And I was one of those kids who was extremely naive, cocky, and arrogant all at the same time. So I walked.
But you can cast.
I appreciate it. But like, you know, and maybe this is kind of sort of like a backwards apology for coming off so abrasive in that moment. But like the fact, like I saw y'all casting and I was like, oh, great. And I walked out from behind my car and I had a 12 weight NRX with a Nautilus monster. And I pulled it out and I was like, I'll cast with y'all.
Yeah, like you can cast. It's like shit.
So that was cool though, because it was like being able to meet one of the first people. And after you and I had talked that day was like that I actually was doing it so high level. You know, we talked about the blood minnows, tarpon here, tarpon elsewhere, and everything else in between. And it was like, wow, this is awesome.
It is. And I do think that people who have got kind of like commonality, like there is I don't know, it's kind of like maybe going to the same college or being in the same fraternity. I wasn't in a fraternity, but you're like, oh, well, I know that the people that were around me were cool. And even though he's older or younger, because he does the same thing, he must be cool too.
Yeah.
Right. So that, I think that commonality was something that was, you know, unique. And again, you are an incredible caster. I told you that. And like, I think Rick is the one who showed you how to cast.
Rick showed me pretty much everything I know.
Yeah, you can cast. You know, some of the stuff that really kind of changed or that was unique was, I believe I had the first push pole in South Texas. And they stole from my boat. I still had the Bayhawk. I had it like tied up to the side of the thing. And I had, you know, you would leave your boat and you just walk.
Yeah.
And you walked a lot, which taught you different kind of things. And that, maybe we were more stationary and allowed fish to come to us versus moving towards fish. Like that's a fundamental difference of like fly fishing, right?
I agree.
Right. So I waited a lot. And talking about like Rick, I remember being in South Bay with Rick, and like line management is a big deal. Right. So we had these, you know, first you just held the coils in your hand, and you got a little bit better, and you had like these little nets that you would wear on a belt. But I remember Rick, you know, I was like, hey dude, can I see you cast like all the fly line and into the back? And he was like, yeah, sure. He pulls the whole fucking thing out. Just like one fucking false cast and just
looking at his watch.
Yeah. So it's still fucking going out. But the guy could really cast. You've got that same skill set that he did. But line management, and with line management and not really kind of being able to move as efficiently as you can now, you would park yourself and be in a place where the fish were tidally influenced and they would roll up into where you were at, or you would park and go and walk along some type of structure again that the fish would move to because of the tide or the wind or the current or the biomass of fish were coming. And if it didn't happen, you were like, yeah, okay, well, no big deal. Let me go to the next spot because I know that the wind's moving the water this way. So it's going to, you know, you tended to move north. That's not, you know,
it's not rocket science. Yeah, I get it.
So you tended to move north. That's kind of like another fundamental kind of big change. We talked about South Bay, you and I.
Yes.
I loved South Bay. I love South Bay. I think it may be the most unique water ecosystem that I'm a part of as a hyper saline situation, right? And so that water would move with wind into like some incredible places, and you would see fish just do incredible things, so like I'll tell you this story, but I'm going to talk about opportunity kind of before because it's part of what wound up happening.
Yes.
So you got to have opportunity or means, kind of do it. So you've got to have like to fish with somebody else, right? You've got to have time.
Yes.
Right. Then you're looking like for skill.
Yep.
Right. And then you got to have like a little bit of money to be able to do it. Right. And so you got to have all three of those things at the same time. And then to find somebody else who's got time, skill, and money at the same time.
It's pretty rare.
It can be tough. So a lot of my fishing was done either with somebody who was older or by myself. And so this one particular time I'm in the back of South Bay and the wind is blowing the water into like way in the back. And there is a creek on a flat that is, 10 inches. And the bait has moved up then onto the flat, which is like at 6 inches or something. Like it's just a real subtle thing. And there are just redfish just knocking bait everywhere. And the bait's just like flying out and flying. Yeah. It's just like, it was just incredible, right? And they were actually eating then. This is maybe something else that I don't mind kind of sharing was that I don't carry that many flies.
Okay.
And certainly like for redfish, and I'm not a big trout guy. Like I know you love trout. They're too not that they're too difficult. They're just, I don't know.
The juice isn't worth the squeeze for some people. I totally get it.
Right. Like that's why I like tarpon, right? Like I put the cast, like they're going to, eat most of the time, right? Like redfish, if you get close to them.
For the most part, they're going to reward you.
They're going to reward me, right? I want to play a video game. I hit the button, I want it to work. But my flies were essentially the same color as the bottom.
We talked about that. Okay, yes.
Right? So I still have, I know the fly that I would tie. It's just a fly made up, right? And it's like so Bud from the school, right? He taught us how to tie 3 flies, a bend back, a woolly minnow,
bugger. Oh, the mud minnow. Yeah.
It's just a suspended fly that's like 6 inches beneath the thing. And then he had a deer hair popper. So surface, intermediate, bottom. And so I had this that's sand, right? So I have a sand colored looking fly, and it was just an incredible day. And I don't really go back there anymore because I had in these really far places where like nobody should be. I had my kid, she's a great little angler.
Yeah, you're telling me about that too. You want to talk about that later? Be my guest, but continue.
Well, no. But she's good.
Yeah,
right. I mean, she's good, and she's kind of stopped. I had stopped kind of fishing in the bay. Then we started fishing tift, and she kind of like enjoyed tift. And then she's like now into billfish, so we don't fish in the bay hardly anymore, right? Which is, woe is me because I don't have a big shore boat or offshore boat. I don't make that kind of money to do it all the time, right? So she's got opportunity and time, right? Or she's got skills and time. I'm the one who's got to come up with the money for 2. But anyway, it's fun. But no, we're in the back, in a different back part of South Bay, and we're pre-fishing for tift. And I've got a picture from that day. She's still young enough that she would have to wear her life vest
while driving.
Well, no, on the boat. Like
okay.
She's wearing a life, and so I bought her like one that wasn't as bad. It was like a water ski life vest or something. And she's got like her pants. And back then we would, I've got a group of guys that I fish with, or I haven't fished with actually in a while, but we're friends and we text every day. And back then we called them, we got these giant cups from Stripes, and you would put
the big gulps or whatever.
Yeah, but they're like is plastic. This is before the Yetis, right? They were insulated. And we put Flor de Caña, ice, Diet Coke, some lime juice, and you I think like big cups or big drinks or whatever, boat drinks. I don't know what they would call them, but we would do that. But she's got her own, right? That photograph. Anyway, we're there before she got her little wading boots on, and we're we park the boat, we get off, and I'm like, all right, I just need to make sure that I can get you. We need to get you a 27 to 28 inch redfish, right here. I know that this is going to be pretty dependable. Yeah. So let's see if we can do that. So we would start walking around. Sure shit, they're doing what they're supposed to do. And we kind of like, I see this truck, and I was like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Well, again, when I would fish down, like you just didn't have the kind of traffic. And if you did, you knew who it was, right? Like I can remember the first time I ran to somebody on the Texas coast.
Yeah.
Right. The first person I ran chasing tarpon in the ocean was Bill Hagan.
Really?
Absolutely.
No kidding.
No kidding. And I thought, oh, hey, how are you doing, Bill? Good. Right. I worked at the federal courthouse. Bill worked at the federal courthouse. So like, I was like, hey, what's going on? How are you doing? Whatever.
Wow.
There shouldn't have been anybody like in these back parts of South Bay. And I was like, that's really weird. This guy's like in a truck. He's not close to any water. He put the truck behind him. And I tell my kid, I'm like, you know what, sweetie, this just doesn't look right. Just hunker down right here. I'll come back and get you. If anything bad happens, walk that direction and it'll take you to the road.
Yeah.
You'll be able to walk straight to it. And needless to say, she didn't listen. The guy drove up to us. We had shouting words. And that's really, I think that's the last time I went into South Bay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a long time ago. but like all of that, like Mexiquita, right? That's a good story.
Yeah, let's hear it.
That was a TIFF story, right? Fishing my daughter in TIFF and trying to get to weigh in. And I stuck a boat in the middle of Mexiquita. I had to spend the night out there. I have a great picture of the boat with the Miller Lite can. The Miller Lite can is on sand. No, but let's see. What other things?
What else you got on the phone?
What else should we talk about? Well, why don't you ask me a little bit, kind of give me some direction, what you would like to know. Actually, this is actually, I think, maybe interesting, was night fishing.
Okay.
Night fishing taught me how to be a better daytime angler.
Interesting.
And so when we first start kind of fishing, it was always in the day, right? One of my fondest, you were talking about like, early memories. It's my grandfather wearing dress shoes. My dad and myself, and we're fishing with Gilbert. Like I remember that. And you would fish in the day. So it wasn't really like we would fish, my dad and I, off of the pier at night, but we weren't fishing at night. And this guy, René, my dad's best friend for many years, he passed away. He was a night fisherman, and we go fishing with René and Slay. And I was like, oh, this is what we need to be doing.
This is easy.
Well, like it figured, like if you go into the garage, I still have my night rods. They're all all the same. They're all up, set up right there. But that I learned how to night fish, which taught me that fish move and why they move and how they move, and that the traffic really does affect them. And then kind of learns like, okay, well then they're moving with the tide as well. That became like another kind of step in my fly fishing. And once that kind of happened, once I figured out that the fish move and that it's not like A happens, then B, right? But like there's a correlation, right? There's coincidence, correlation, and causation, right? There's a correlation, right? It's a little bit one step beneath causative, but it happens more often than not. And that was like revolutionary for me. And then, so I would fish, I was talking about like Captain Roy, so Captain Roy was one of the first kind of sight fishing people that was down here that was dedicated solely to that. So he was fishing with spin guys, but like you would just go down the spoil banks, and he had a white piece of PVC pipe that he pushed that boat straight with and was able to keep his shallow sport straight. But then once I kind of figured, like, oh, these fish come up here. Okay, well, let's get close to a creek that's close to this shallow water. Oh, these fish just kind of magically appear here, and they start magically appearing around these times. Oh, And then, so that was like a big, I don't know. And I don't know that you could necessarily kind of ask ChatGPT that now, or, Gemini or whatever, that it would teach you that. That's just more trial and error.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I hope that the young anglers don't get too discouraged. Right? You don't have to have, a limit day or more than limit day to have a great day.
Yeah.
And so like when I started Texas tarpon fishing, a great day was to see one.
Sounds like trout fishing.
Right? Like if I saw one, I was like, yes.
Found one.
I found one.
Yep.
Right? Okay. All right. This is what was happening. This is what was going on. This was the pattern. Let me see if I can duplicate the pattern. Oh shit.
Yeah, there's another one.
I've duplicated the pattern. All right. Now let's see if I can take this pattern and I can extrapolate. Is that if they're doing this, they got to do one or two things afterwards. Okay. I'm going to spend an entire day not necessarily trying to catch a fish.
Just trying to find them.
Just trying to figure out, because I know that they've got to be at point A. I know that they're at point C. Where are they in between A and C?
Yeah, where is point B? Because I know they're there somewhere.
I know they are.
Yes.
And so like you figure that out. And then, okay, I know they went from A to B to C. I know they have to go to D afterwards.
Yeah.
Where's D? What has to happen for D? And that became very rewarding.
Yeah.
From a personal level. When you kind of put something together, and there's other people that did it well before I did. Mm-hmm. I'm sure better than I did, but I didn't take anything from those people.
Exactly.
And so when you're like, oh, okay, now I can consistently do this. Oh, yeah, that's like really kind of cool. And yeah, it's just cool.
No, I mean, I totally agree with that, because like, and some people may not agree with it, but like for me anyways, like on my solo days, if like I notice that like the fishing is not as great as it should be, or I'm just like not in the focus mood, I'll actually just look at them on the drone. Like I like to see what they're doing. Like, and it's cool because like, the other day I have a video, and I'll show you in a second. I have a video of a trout that's probably like 28, 29, fully yawning in the morning. Yawns, and it's one of those big stretches because his tail comes out of the water, and you're like, I would have never seen that. If I was in this game for I have to catch a fish or else it's not successful, then I would have never taken the time to sit down, send the drone up, and just look at him, be like, wow, I have that on video now. Like I am. It's not a one-to-one like one-to-one like analogy to what you just brought up, but I think it's very, very like very similar. And I totally agree with like the vindication you get, or like the sense of achievement.
You do, and I'm glad that you asked now in retrospect the question, what's your first memory of the outdoors, not what's your first memory fly fishing. Mm-hmm. Because there is more to this than just catching fish.
I agree.
There's the practice, like we kind of talked about, like there's meeting other friends and doing things with them.
There's also lessons. There's a lot of lessons that you learn out in like the lower, at least for me anyways, in the Lower Laguna, that like, in the book, right? One of the things I wrote in my story was, the Laguna teaches me another lesson that, some of us may not want to know, but sometimes it's better to be lucky than to be good.
Absolutely.
And that there are just those days where you can put all the practice in, but for some reason nothing works. And it's just like, that's a lesson of life. Like you're not owed shit.
So that I'm glad you brought that up, because that was being outdoors like that. We've grown accustomed to like instant gratification, mm-hmm. right? I touch my phone, the screen needs to turn on. I go to the light switch, it needs to turn on. Being outdoors isn't like that, right? Everything can be as it should, and it still doesn't work.
Yeah.
You can practice as much as you wanted to have practiced, and you still don't get that opportunity to attempt to execute. And it's humbling, right? Mm-hmm. And then when it works, it's
like a drug.
Yeah, it is. And that's, something that I don't know that you can replicate that dopamine.
Yeah.
Because if it's too easy, right? If it's instantaneous and it's too easy, then you don't kind of value it, right? You've got to kind of, maybe you got to spend a little bit of time. And
you have to bleed first to make it worthwhile. And so, I get it.
Like as a kid, like what you're saying, I'm pretty sure if I listened to every single, most anglers or kind of experience, they've kind of done a similar thing. It's like, well, I fished here, I fished there, I started doing this, I started this. Like you went through this progression, and oftentimes you're trying to get out of the progression faster than what you should, as opposed to enjoying the moment.
Yeah.
Right? Like I would not be able to have done now if I hadn't have spent the time, like as a 9-year-old on my BMX bike, driving all over McAllen with a freaking rod, driving everywhere. Right? Yeah. I wouldn't, if my mother wouldn't have dropped me off at Water Walk and picked me up 6 hours later, right? I wouldn't have developed. I was like, oh, okay. Like you've got to put that time in to ultimately become better. And as opposed to like, oh, well, that sucks. No, like, shit, man, I'd love to go back to Water Walk and go catch some of those bass. I
mean, I think the best way to put it is like, it teaches you how to like fight adversity or how to battle adversity. Like, there might be days where it's like, okay, wow, like 5 miles out of the east, there's going to be no clouds all day. You get out and all of a sudden it's cloudy. You're like, I could go home and bitch about it, or I could just figure something else out. And if it doesn't work, then I'm going to try it again tomorrow. That's
perseverance.
Thank you.
That is probably the key to 99% of success in everything that you do.
I agree. And I almost think that some of the lessons that are taught, not in just the Lower Laguna, but just in the outdoors, are some of the most vague lessons that you can like transpose to every single aspect of your life.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. See, that's one of the things that you just don't realize. And you think you get some of it from sports too, like sports and competitiveness is there. But there's just something about being at the mercy of nature where no matter what you do, you will never truly be in full control. That just teaches you that little bit more of just got to stick through it, got to get through it.
What you actually mentioned it. You are not in control.
Yes.
And that's really hard for most people to accept. Mm-hmm. And so, okay, well, can you control the weather? No, but I can control what I do given the weather.
Exactly.
And so you begin to focus on what you can do. Can I control my knots? Yes.
Yeah.
Right? How do you do that? You tie a bunch of them. Yeah. You practice. Can you control how you cast? Yes. Yeah. Right? Okay, well, what happened? Right? Like, again, I'm a 52-year-old man and I lift weights to practice my cast. And we talked about, right? Like this movement right here is with the top of my shoulder. It's this muscle, whatever the heck that is.
A really good way. That's how you get the thumb to come over.
That's right. Yeah. And so I lift a 5-pound weight and I practice like throwing that over.
Most people won't do that though. And it's like and I'm listening to that and it's like, I see it. That's the kind of like drive that I had when I was like, I have to get to 130. Like I had a goal in my life. It was like, or not my life, but in 2024, I was like, I need to reach 130 foot with a 5-weight fly line before I turn 25. I didn't achieve that. I achieved it 4 or 5 months later with Rick and a couple other folks like Michael Gear and other people at the GC3 event that we hosted a couple months later. But I still did it. But it was one of those things I was so, like, it wasn't I was angry or anything, but I was just so focused. Like I wanted to improve. I wanted to say that I could do it because it was like I'd given myself that goal. And it's very, like I see the correspondence between, practicing with the weight and getting that little hit right there. Like I totally understand it.
Well, so I also commend you that you didn't pick up all your toys and leave the sandbox either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it's like if you knock on one more door, you try one more time, like your last cast, right? There's so many life lessons like that. Like, let me just stick it out just a little bit longer. Right. And it's like, there was a Kenny Rogers song, "You're Too Young," but it's like know when to hold them, when to fold. Like you can learn when to hold.
Yeah. Okay, I know some music.
there are all of these incredible, and that's probably maybe something we should talk about. But all these incredible lessons learned outdoors, and so for me, right, and it's going to be different I had my father or my grandfather always trying to teach me something. And so driving to the island or driving to Arroyo City or driving to Port Mansfield or driving to Hebronville or driving from Hebronville to the ranch, when you are in an automobile, you are a captive audience.
You have to be.
There's nothing else to do. You can't go anywhere else. And so my dad would just like keep the radio off, or my grandfather, and you just start talking.
Wow.
Right. And so he was always, he called them dichos, right?
Yeah. Like
little,
adages.
Exactly.
Yes.
Little sayings. And so like one, I can remember my grandfather's like, you got to walk to the gate to open up the gate. And I'm just, kicking dirt and kind of open it. And my grandfather just right through it. And then I walk back and I'm kind of closing the gate. And he jumps in the car. You got to learn how to walk fast, talk fast, think fast. And I was like, oh shit, like why? And he was like, it's like your multiplication tables. It's 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, 72, 81, 90, 90.
It keeps you sharp.
Right. Yeah. And so my dad was the same way, in that he was always like, well, let's take inventory.
Okay.
Right. And so what's going good? What could you do better? And we would take inventory about maybe life going out, and take inventory about how the day went coming back. So how would you do things different? Oh, well, I probably would have just stayed put right over here. Or you know what? I committed to this too long. We should have gone and done something else. That type of
inner dialogue.
Okay. But if just, what did you do well? What did you do not well? How do you improve? Like it sharpens you.
I agree. Well, one of the things that I think is a really good point to make is, when you're younger and you don't have that, like the ability to choose whether or not you want to go, right. Or whether or not you want to listen to them talk or stuff like that. Like, you are essentially having a early access to inner monologue that, as a kid, you won't achieve till you're much later in life. That then I think like having that inner monologue is probably one of the most important things you can do in your life and so to hear that, you were having early access as a kid, I mean, it makes sense. Like, and I think that that's a really good, observation to make. It's like sometimes, people can get better if they're exposed to the stuff that, allows them to think through their problems later on. And this is more so fishing related, obviously. But again, I just think that was a really good observation, right now when you were telling me that, like, anecdote.
Well, and there's just so much more, there's so much more application to all of this than just this.
I agree.
And we sometimes forget that, right? Like, it's just like, I want the newest rod. I want to catch the most fish, where maybe that shouldn't necessarily be the goal. It's a good goal.
Yeah.
Right? It's a fun goal, but enjoying the moment, enjoying the peace, enjoying your friends or your family that you're with.
The opportunity. Like, at the end of the day, we talked about this for a while. It's opportunity cost. But at the end of the day, if you don't enjoy the opportunity, then you're just enjoying the cost.
Yeah.
There's no fun in that.
Yeah, there isn't.
It's like looking forward to paying your taxes.
Let's not talk about that. That's coming up. We got 2 months until that, to the day, my friend.
Yep.
2 months to that and to the day.
All right. We're at hour 17. Is there anything else you want to go over?
I probably would like to reiterate my thanks to my father, to my grandfather, to my mom, to my wife, to my daughter. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm very, very blessed. Like, I'm probably going to cry. I'm a super emotional guy.
It's all right, bro.
I'm very blessed that she'll go fishing with me.
Yeah.
And she wrote her entrance paper into law school, and her most influential moment was catching a marlin. So I was just like really touched, because
I get it.
I gave her that.
Yeah.
She earned it, but
you paid for it.
Yeah, I did pay for it. I'd like to thank some of my friends that I really have fished with, my entire life. There's some guys that have just been solid.
Yeah.
And there's too many of them to kind of name individually, but every one of them that's listening knows who I'm talking about. And I really have appreciated those days in the truck, those days in the boat, those days getting the truck stuck, getting
waiting
the boat,
for the tide to come up,
getting the boat stuck. I've been very fortunate to have had and made true friends doing this.
Yeah.
And maybe I hope that it's kind of come across, but I'm very grateful for all of those opportunities. And that maybe that's what I want to leave, especially the young kids with, right? Is if you get a used fly rod that your uncle gives you,
I buy used,
right? Or you got something off Facebook Marketplace, like we were talking about. Be grateful for that, as opposed to, oh man, I don't have this other thing or whatever. Like, because having the greatest gear isn't what is going to make you a great angler.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It seems like we've already we've if there is one message that we've come across, it's that the lessons you learn are that is what teaches you to be better at whatever you end up doing, whether it's fishing, whether it's a professional life, whatever. But you have to live through those lessons. And
you do.
Totally agree. Now, the last two questions I'd like to ask, right? The first one being, looking back at everything you've done in your life, all the experiences you've done, like everything. Is there anything that you wish you would have done differently?
Wow. That's a really profound question. I'm pretty pleased kind of with my life. I'm sure I could do some things better, but I don't lie, cheat, or steal.
Yeah.
And I've had a very, very fortunate life. And so, no, I'm pretty
good.
I wouldn't change kind of my path, right? Because you like I have this scar here. Like right now, I cooked a steak the other night and spilled some
hot oil
on my stomach. Right, I wasn't wearing a shirt. And I'm burned right now. Yeah, well, if I hadn't have gotten burned, I wouldn't remember not to do that the next time, right? So I don't know that I haven't gotten in any real trouble. I haven't caused any real damage to anything. So I don't think I'd really kind of change that. Okay. I mean, if I, you know what I am going to do? Say something. If I could have spent more time with my father or with my grandfather outdoors, I wish I would have been able to have done that or done more of it. My dad is still around, right? Like we still talk about it, but we don't fish as much as we should.
Mm-hmm. Some people I have on the podcast sometimes will explain to me that like they didn't absorb as much knowledge from their father or grandfather, people they looked up to in the fishing world. Do you feel like you've absorbed as much information as you possibly can, or do you wish that you were like, oh man, I should have paid more attention here and there?
So, like the fishing is important, but I feel like I've absorbed the character.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So there's a saying in Spanish that my dad likes to tell me, dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. Tell me who you run around with.
Yeah, who your friends are. Yeah,
that's right.
Okay.
And so the people that I have associated with are people of good character. And while I maybe have not picked up all of Bud's techniques for catching trout, I've picked up
the character.
Bud's good character.
Gotcha.
Right? My dad's great friend Rene, right? Like I would go fishing by myself without Rene, or I'd go hunting without Rene, is that I picked up maybe not all of his skills in the outdoors, but I picked up his good character. Same goes for my dad. The same goes for my grandfather. The same goes for the guys that I fish with. I maybe haven't picked up the good character. I mean, their particular skill set, but I have done a really good job of trying to pick up their character.
I get it. Like you, like the drive or like the resilience in a certain person. Like, okay, like, it's blowing 35. Do I want to walk to the next pothole? All right, fine. It's like, I get it. Yeah. I get it. Okay. So the last question I like to ask is, as if you're talking to the next generation, think 12, 14, 16, 18, kids who want to go into the profession in the outdoors mostly. What is a piece of advice that you would give them?
So I think one of the, so if you go into the outdoors, you are basically an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And so there's a some folks that I'm super friendly with from down here, and we took this class in college. I had this great professor. His name was Professor Reister, and like it was an entrepreneurial class. And one of the things that I really left that class with is, if you don't have cash flow, you're not going to stay in business.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of people that go into the outdoors business, you have money that comes in one part of the year. Mm-hmm. Well, that money has got to support you all the way until the following year when that money comes back in again. Mm-hmm. And instead of going to the bar and drinking it up that night, you need to really kind of save that money and think about it and how you're going to get from the end of, let's say you're a summertime guide, how you're going to get from the end of September until the beginning of April.
Yeah.
Right. So you is to think about your cash flow would probably be my biggest, if you want to do this as a profession. And then the other thing would be something that my dad kind of said is, you can never have your reputation taken away from you. You can only give it away. So, we were talking when we were fishing, like I have met people who lie, cheat, and steal on the water, which is like, we're fishing.
Yeah. Like, what are you really doing, dude? Yeah.
You lie, cheat, or steal on the water and you get busted for it.
It's not even a good look, dude.
It's not like that's going to stick with you forever. And you just don't want, you don't want that. So be very mindful of your reputation.
Okay. Well, an hour 25. I mean, it took us a while. I'm glad that we finally did it. We've been trying for a while.
I work a lot.
I know. Sorry. It's not only that. Like, we were supposed to, last week? And then last week I wasn't able to because I had a mix up. So, no, I'm glad that we finally got it done. I'm glad we spent some time on the water. And I'm hopefully looking forward to spending more time on the water so we can, right our wrongs from that barometric pressure day, because that was just a little bit too much. But I digress.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And it's been an honor.
Likewise.